Hello my fellow freedom builders and welcome back to the channel. In the video today I'm gonna look at one of the most hyped company the recent days. That is called Hyliion, and my question is it the new Nikola? Well, actually it's not really my question, but I've gotten a lot of questions from you out there writing me mails and messages asking me if I would take a look at Hyliion to see if that could become the new Nikola. If you don't recall it, Nikola is the hydrogen truck company that I analyzed a week and a half ago. And well, I got a lot of messages there. Some were very supportive and some were not quite as supportive because people really liked the Nikola concept, and I said that I thought it was actually no good. That's not really true, because I actually like the vision, but the structure of the company and the capitalization they have, the funding they have, that was simply not good enough. So what I said was that I saw Nikola at least with a big chance of failing in the future. Now, Hyliion, the reason why people are asking about that is because they are also manufacturing equipment for trucks to instead of diesel fuel. So they are kind of in the same business as Nikola. And if we look at the price here, we can see that we have Nikola here with the price exploding upwards, and then we have this one, which is Hyliion. Well, as you can see, it doesn't say Hyliion, it says Tortoise Acquisition Corp, and that is because it is the exact same setup and structure as with Nikola. In the case of Nikola, we had Vector IQ that went in, made what is called a reverse merger. So they actually bought up Nikola and that way introduced them to the stock exchange, and that is also what is happening here. So when the day the merger was announced, we can see that the Tortoise Acquisition Corp jumped up from around 10 to 15, and a few days later it was up around 20, and now it has dropped a bit back. So what people of course are asking me is, now that these two companies are actually a bit alike, do I think that this company can take off just as Nikola could? And maybe they can. If you hang on to the end of the video, you can get my perspective on it. So let's have a look at what this Hyliion actually is. Well, first of all, Hyliion is a hybrid name. It is short for hybrid lithium ion. You know, hybrid as in a hybrid motor, and lithium ion as the battery. So that is kind of their name. And just here they're getting a bit more credit from me than the Nikola, because I have always thought that the Nikola name was a bit cringy, because we have Tesla and they're making electrical vehicles, and then comes a new competitor, says, well, we know the inventor Nikola Tesla, and Tesla kind of took the Tesla name, so we will take the Nikola name and then pretty much do the same as Tesla does. And I think that is a bit embarrassing, not being able to come up with a better name. So just here, coming up with their entirely own name, Hyliion, is a big plus in my book. Yeah, I know it has nothing to do with the company as an investment or as a running business, but that's just how I feel about it. Now, what do the Hyliion do? Well, let's scroll down here, and this is the investor presentation, and I will link to that in the comment section or in the text section below the video. So let's have a look at the company. We'll look at the management later. This is just some of the mission and vision, and that's fine enough, but we want to dive into the company, and I will walk you through this presentation. So what Hyliion has is that today they have what is called Hyliion Hybrid Electric, and that is equipment to put on existing trucks, so that they can drive with a hybrid electric solution. Now, what is a hybrid electric solution? Well, that is kind of, I have my little car for my wife and driving kids into the city, and that is a Toyota hybrid, meaning that it is actually a normal gasoline car, but there is a battery in it. So every time my car is rolling downhill, or I'm using my motor brake up to the traffic light, I'm actually charging my battery, so that when I get into the city and drive slowly, kind of slowly, then I can take the electricity that I have charged the battery with and drive on pure electricity for a couple of kilometers in the city. So that is kind of what Hyliion here are doing. They just put a system on existing diesel trucks so that they can save a lot of diesel and get a more smooth driving experience. That is what they have today, and that is already functioning in a lot of trucks. And then the exciting part, the reason why people are hyped up about this is what's called the Hypertruck ERX. And I'll get back to the technology in a second, but what that actually is it's also an electrical vehicle like the one from Nikola, like the one from Tesla, except that this one produces its own electricity via something called CNG, or compressed natural gas. So I'll get back to that later, but that is the difference between the two of them. If we go down here, we can see what is available today on the market. And as you can see, available today, we have diesel. That is a good old diesel truck that we know. They are polluting and they are expensive to run. And then we have the hybrid electric from Hyliion, and that's also available today. We can see here that the upfront vehicle cost, we can see that the Hyliion hybrid electric is a bit more expensive. We can see that the fuel costs are lower, and we can see that 7 years total cost of ownership. Yeah, well, they are saying that we are saving a bit, but let's just say it's about the same, maybe a bit less in 7 year total cost of ownership. We should acknowledge that when we are investing in a company and we are looking at the products, we should have a look at what will the customer experience be when buying a product here. And that's what we will look into today, if the Hyliion products are actually something that is financial sound to buy, and if it gives a better experience for the users. Then we have future solutions here, and then of course we have the Tesla. We all know that one, and they should be available around 2021 plus. And just remember, this is the sales material, the investor material from Hyliion. So of course at the Tesla and at the Nikola, they are writing plus behind here. I think it is true that it is somewhere after 21 here and after 23 here, but of course they're not putting a plus behind their own ERX here, because that would be a bad signal to send to the investors, because of course that they won't run into any problems here at Hyliion, so they will have their product out and running in 21. That might be right. Let's have a look at that later. Upfront vehicle cost, we can see between 200 and 235,000 here, so that's pretty much in the same range. Then we have the 7 year total fuel cost. We have the Tesla, $98,000 in electricity. We have the Nikola, and that is $350,000, and that is of course a part of their business plan, Nikola, that they are also planning on making money on the hydrogen from their own hydrogen gas stations. And we have the ERX here just around in the same range as Tesla, so that is fine enough. But what we can see, at least in their estimates from Hyliion, it is of course a lot cheaper to buy their truck. I have a feeling that both Nikola and Tesla will dispute that and say that their solution is way smarter, but of course the one makes the material can choose the numbers they want. But 7 years total cost of ownership, you can see here, Tesla 438,000, the Nikola 637,000, and ta-da, the Hyliion Hypertruck ERX around $80,000. So that is below half of what Nikola's price is. Now, I'm not 100% certain that this number really is valid, but let's just say that it is 400,000. Then it will still be way below the Nikola numbers, so this might actually be a good competitor if at least they're covering the same market and the same customers. So let's have a look at that. First of all, let's have a look at some of the cost for the customers buying that, because as I said, it is important for looking at a company and looking at the products. Is it easy to sell to the customers? Is it easy to penetrate the market? And when we're looking at down here, the hydrogen, the electricity, and the CNG, then we can see that the current price, and this is calculated as dollars per diesel gallon equivalent, meaning that how much hydrogen or electricity or CNG do you need that gives the same amount of energy, the same amount of mileage as this amount of a diesel gallon when you put that into your truck. So you can see today hydrogen is very expensive. That's one of the points of critique I gave in my video as well. But in the future, it will maybe get cut down by 2/3 or 75% or something like that. The dotted line, and I do like that in this Hyliion material, they always compare to diesel because that is kind of the huge market that they're moving into. I don't recall the exact numbers, but I think it is a $800 billion market altogether, something like that. So of course it is the diesel trucks they are going to steal customers from. Not as much, do I think, at least Tesla or Nikola, although a bit maybe, but they are going to move in on the diesel market. So hydrogen might end up in the same range as diesel. Then we have the electricity, expensive today, might end up at a lower cost than the diesel. And then we have the CNG, compressed natural gas, that is low and will stay low. And I should say that Hyliion are not the first coming out with a CNG driven truck. They already exist, so it's not kind of like this revolutionary technology. They just have a new fit with the hybrid and the way they build the trucks. So this is not something completely new that has to be invented all from scratch. Now, an important thing here is that when you look at the existing infrastructure, and that is one of the reasons why I actually fancy Hyliion over Nikola, because one of my points of critique was that Nikola has to build up their hydrogen station, tank station infrastructure all from scratch. Right now there is around 10 hydrogen tanking gas tanks around United States, or maybe actually, yeah, that is the United States. Electricity, I'm not certain how they have calculated this, because Tesla has a lot of electricity stations for the retail, for the cars, but this, I think this is for the big trucks. They mean specialized trucking electricity charging stations. That must be what they are thinking of here. And then we can see the CNG. They already have 729 stations all over United States. I'll show you a map in a second. And you can see that CNG stations by territory, there's also 5,500 down here in South America, 200 in Africa, 5,000 in Europe, and 20,000 in Russia and Asia. So it is not a new thing. There's also already an infrastructure in place so that Hyliion can start selling their products worldwide pretty much. I'll not look at the carbon intensity here. Oh yeah, a little numbers game here they're playing, but I think it is relevant. The price, the estimated total cost to establish 729 stations. If Nikola should make hydrogen stations, if they should make 729 stations, that would cost them around $12 billion. And that is one of the reasons why I said that I think Nikola is hugely undercapitalized, because the money they have right now is maybe, on a good year, enough to get their normal BEV, the electrical vehicle, battery vehicle, up and running, and maybe get some more research done for the hydrogen truck. But I don't see anywhere in the world that they have money enough for all of their products, for the first BEV, for the hydrogen truck, and for the new battery technology they're talking about that there's no research paper on and no researchers know of. But all of a sudden they're ready to produce it, mass produce it. They simply don't have cash enough. They don't have capital enough to make hydrogen stations all over the world, or at least just the United States. So that's one of the reasons I don't really believe in Nikola. The electricity would cost around 7 billion. We can read the small print down here how they calculated that, but there's no doubt that it will be an expensive venture to build all these stations, and the CNG stations are pretty much already there, at least in some parts of the world and of the United States. When we're looking down here, we can see something about the range and the payload capacity, and we should be aware here that they're using some small statistical tricks. First of all, the range. The Tesla is meant to be around 500 miles in range. That is fair enough on battery. We can see diesel out here around 1400 miles. Then there's a Nikola truck which gives around 750, and there is a Hypertruck ERX. I should say this is also not running yet, as well the Tesla and the Nikola. It's only the electric hybrid that is out running with the customers, but the Hypertruck ERX is not out there yet. But that will be able, at least in that's their claim, to have 1300 miles, almost the same as a diesel truck. Now, payload capacity. That is, of course, extremely important when you're going to sell trucks, because the customer that buys this truck wants as much payload capacity as possible. And we have a Tesla here with 43,000 pounds, Nikola with 48, and the Hypertruck with 53. Now, I don't know if you can see here what's wrong with this picture, but here's 43, here's 53. That should only be 20% more. But no. Here it seems like it is, 4 times as much? What they have done here is a little statistical trick that I don't really think that suits them well. Because you can see this scale starts at 40,000 pounds. So what this scale should have been, it should actually have started over here somewhere and set from 0 to 53 and from 0 to 43, and then the difference wouldn't seem as dramatic, but they have chosen to do it like this. Just be aware when you're looking at stats like this, always to check where the scale starts. So the refuel time, the Nikola and the Hypertruck ERX is pretty much the same. Tesla is way longer, and then there's performance. I'm not certain how important that is for trucking companies. If you can go from 0 to 60 miles per hour fully loaded in 20 seconds on 30 seconds, I'm not certain. I'm not sure about that. But a diesel truck is a minute, so maybe I have never driven a truck, so I have no idea how important this is. All right. Then we go further down the material, and this sounds very good. They already have 1,000 pre-ordered Hypertruck ERX from a logistics company called Agility. And that's great. That is a bit like Nikola. They have 800 orders from Anheuser-Busch, the brewery. And I was checking into that order, and there's a lot of flexibility in there. That is kind of like a rubber band. Anheuser-Busch doesn't really have to take 800 trucks from Nikola, but that's another story. But here we should also know that, knowing that Agility has bought 1,000 trucks. As far as I can tell, I was reading a bit into it and also found some information on another YouTube channel, a guy that did some research and found out that Agility is actually one of the pre-seed funding companies in the Hyliion. So they have a massive interest in saying that this could be a fantastic truck for them, because if Hyliion becomes a success, then they own a part of Hyliion. So that, of course, is something we should be aware of. Always be a bit critical of your sources, especially when you're reading material that is made by the company itself. All right, there comes some strategical partners down here. They say something about how big the market is and where they see themselves fit in. I think that is a fair assessment, and they have the battery electrical vehicle, the fuel cell, the CNG and the hybrid electric, and they see, of course, themselves as almost the only ones on 300 and 500 plus miles here on the CNG and hybrid electric. So what they want to signal here is that they are pretty much alone in this market. They might be, but maybe not for long. Let's see. But of course, target customers, everybody that transport UPS, Amazon, FedEx, so on and so forth, of course. Now, when you do a qualitative fundamental analysis of a company, it is, of course, important to look at the management team. And I thought when I went through Nikola that the management team, at least the CEO, or should I say former CEO, because Trevor is resigning even before the company is actually getting on their feet, funny enough, cashing out on some of his stocks. He didn't really have, or doesn't really have, a background, Trevor, in this trucking invention stuff. He's drawing on others' experience. If we look at Thomas Healy here, he's also a young guy. He actually have 10 electrical vehicle powertrain patents. He's done some engineering education, so he has a background in the technical stuff, as well as Elon Musk does in Tesla. And I think that is a huge advantage, that the CEO actually knows what he or she is talking about. I don't know why they have put in he's a semi-pro football player, doesn't really matter. Then we have the Chief Technology Officer, which has 23 years senior engineering experience in the automotive industry. That's great. Ford Motor Company and so on and so forth. They are very knowledgeable and well educated and very experienced people here. So yes, there's nothing wrong with this. I don't think it is quite as thin a management team as on the Nikola. Now there's some technical details here. I'll not go into these. They are talking about the hybrid electric, what the OEM compatible with, meaning that that can be put on pretty much every single truck. They have Volvo and Freightliners and Kenworth and all the big names here. And deployed with customers today, so that is out and running, producing revenue for the company. That is great, and you can go in on the website to read more about that. So there's a lot of descriptions here, and the good thing here, and again from the customer's view, you can see that this hybrid electrical package costs something like $30,000, but they can actually they can earn that back in a couple of years simply by the savings they're making in diesel and maintenance and so on. It gets a lot smoother ride as far as I can read and see from people's experience, and also a lot more clean and comfortable ride in the day-to-day business. They have some customers experience, and again, this is one of the reasons why I actually think that Hyliion is a more attractive investment from my point of view, because they actually have real customers trying out their products, not their new ERX, of course. We'll see the plan for that in a second, but their main technology here in the beginning, they actually have real life customers telling about their experience. They have several million miles of experience with their existing technology, and that was one of my critiques on Nikola. It was that they have this fancy plan, we are just setting into production, and then everything is good and the customers are happy. But as we all know, when production starts, that's where the real problem starts. Almost everything is possible in a laboratory with researchers, but when the rubber meets the road, that's when the real problem starts. When the day-to-day truck driver does something that the researchers had never foreseen. We know it was software as well. When the software is finished, it is actually only 10% finished, because 90% of the changes happens when people start using the software. That's pretty much the same with trucks, and that's why I really like this Hyliion product, because they have tested it. Then of course there's a Hypertruck, and that is not tested yet. Let's just have a look at what that actually is. There's a fuel tank with compressed natural gas here that delivers natural gas into a generator. Then the generator produces electricity down to the battery packs down here, and then it is the battery packs that produces the power that moves the truck. That also means that it can actually produce a lot of power, but then they can drive. They actually drive on electricity, which makes it a lot cleaner to drive. And the natural gas is a lot better for the environment than, for instance, diesel is. So even though it is not like hydrogen, then it is a lot cheaper. It is a lot more accessible. There are a lot more fuel tank stations for CNG. And then it produces its own electricity. And I think that's quite neat. Now the ERX. And the ERX is what really drives the hype here. As you can see, they have demo truck development and testing, and they already have these trucks out and test them. And that development process ends here in 2020. It might already have ended. Then there's the production, design, and development, and that is actually building the assembly line, the manufacturing process. And that has started here in 2020 and runs into Q3 2021. We have the testing, validation, fleet demo rollout. So they start rolling out a fleet demo here in Q2, Q3 next year. So that's actually a year from now, and that's very ambitious. And that's one of the points you could argue with here. Are they a bit too ambitious when seeing the problems that Tesla has been in, that Nikola will probably face at some point too? Then, well, nobody knows. And of course, this plan is crucial for their numbers to fit when we go into the numbers in a second. But they have a plan of volume production here from Q1 2022, and that is about a year and a half from now. The thing that could be in their favor here is that this still builds on their well-known technology. They know a lot about batteries. They know the trucks. They have a lot of data points to draw on. So it might be possible for them. And if it is possible, I think that I asked in the beginning, could this be a Nikola killer? And I actually think maybe not a killer, but at least a very, very tough competitor. And if there's something Nikola doesn't need right now, it is a tough competitor. They need to have the market for themselves. And they are not allowed to have that. That's for certain. All right, there are some more details here. And then, of course, the interesting thing is the numbers. This is all about the acquisition from the Tortoise acquisition corp and so on. What is interesting over here, of course, is that right now the share price started at $10. They have 161.6 million shares outstanding. That, of course, gives an equity value of $1.6 billion. And then if you have plus debt, you have less cash to balance sheet, of course, then you end up with the enterprise value. So you are actually, for the stocks, paying at the price of $10, you are paying an extra premium of around 60% on top of the enterprise value. That is not uncommon on these IPOs, reverse mergers. That's actually quite normal, but that of course is at the $10 mark. We can see right now they are at the $17.4 mark here. We are talking the 26th of June right now, so that might easily go up on a later point here. So when we're looking at their budget here, we can see they are all estimates. But as we can see, the hybrid electric units sold, that's what they sell today, 20. And we can see the revenue and so on, gross profit, EBITDA, negative of $56 million. That's not too bad. 2021, they are going to sell 300 hybrid electric units. That's the first technology. Some more revenue here, and they are actually making a gross profit here with an okay margin, but of course the EBITDA is still negative. And then their plan is to start making money on the bottom line, $8 million from the sale of 4,100 hybrid electric units and 2,500 ERXs. As with Nikola, I'm a bit skeptical here, but that's just because I've seen so many manufacturing companies coming out with their huge plans as well. That could be Tesla, that could be Nikola, that could be NIO, that could be not just in the electrical vehicle sector, but any sector pretty much. And it is very rare that these production estimates are really keeping up with reality. So all of this, at least these large numbers, could easily be a year delayed. And that was one of my critiques of Nikola, was that their estimate is that they're going to make money from 2024. So that's 4 years out in the future, and you can easily put 1 or 2 years extra on that. And the same here, it could easily be that they are turning a profit first in 23 or maybe even 24. So of course they should be funded in a way that that is possible. We should just remember here that in the Hyliion case, they quote unquote only need to finance the hybrid electric units. That is what they've already developed and have a lot of experience with. And then they should develop and make ready for sale the ERX, the Hypertruck here. When we look at Nikola, they have, first of all, their standard battery electrical vehicle. They have their hydrogen vehicle. They have some new battery technology that no one has really heard about or seen any research on. Then they have all the hydrogen plants and so on and so forth. And they haven't even one truck out with the customers right now. So Nikola could easily be needing something like $5 billion for their project. And I'm not certain that Hyliion will need the same. They have is $700-800 in available cash, and they may be needing a bit more, maybe 500 million more, but not as much as Nikola in my assessment anyway. So here they are planning on making a couple of $100 million in 23 and 602 million in 2024. Now let's see how that goes. Okay. Then they're comparing enterprise value and so on. Nikola did the same, and I don't really like the comparison. You can see here that they are comparing themselves in 2024. They're comparing themselves to the other companies' numbers, Tesla, NIO, BYD, and so on, to their 2021 estimates, and showing that that is a lot better. So I'll not go into depth with this. All right. That is pretty much the presentation walkthrough here. You can also read more about the technology on their website. Now, what do I think? Will I be investing in Hyliion? Well, I haven't invested yet. I'll not say that I wouldn't, but if I invested in it, it would be quite a small investment. I would not risk much here because I'm not really into these IPOs and reverse mergers and so on. But I do actually like the prospect here. There are, of course, some very large unknowns, some very large variables here, but there always are with IPOs, with new tech and so on. But what I do like here compared to Nikola is that they are out running. They have trucks running right now. They have experience from real customers. They are building on a technology that is not completely new. They don't have to invent everything from the bottom up. They need to put it together in a new way and of course take some patents on their book, but it is not something like complete new inventions. It's more like mixing together already existing things in a very neat way, and then of course putting some of their own smart tech in. So from what I can read, and I saw some reviews from some of the truck drivers that were very satisfied, that makes me very comfortable that they have actually been tested with real people. Another thing compared to the Nikola is that Nikola, as you recall from the video, you could pre-order their trucks, and that costed $0, meaning that every time they got a pre-order, they put it on the book as an income, future income. But nobody knows. I've seen YouTubers saying that they ordered 10 Nikola trucks just for the fun of it, because just to test if it was possible, and it was. So there are a lot of these pre-orders in the Nikola book that simply don't exist. Then we have the Hyliion. As far as I can tell, you have to deposit $5,000 to make a pre-order there. So the pre-orders they have, of course they might not all be real, but at least it will filter away the YouTubers just ordering 10 trucks. I don't think any YouTuber will order just 10 Hyliion trucks. That would cost them $5,000 in deposit. So I'm pretty sure that the pre-orders we see in Hyliion are quite valid, and I don't think they will lose a lot of them. So when I look at the numbers, I don't feel like Hyliion is as crazy. There's not as crazy a price tag on the company right now as there is on the Nikola. I actually think Hyliion is more fairly priced right now. Of course, all of a sudden, if they jump up to $100, we can debate it again. But then again, I think that they need a lot less funding, a lot less capital to work with. And I actually kind of believe their estimates and budget. They might be moved maybe a year out in the future, but I believe the Hyliion budget a lot more than I believe the Nikola, as well as I believe I have a lot more trust in the Hyliion management team as I do in the than I do in the Nikola. So that pretty much sums it up. Should I choose between Nikola and Hyliion, I would definitely choose Hyliion. I'm not 100% certain I will buy stocks in it, but I'll try to let you know if I do, and I'll definitely watch it and have it on my potential watch list for small speculative shares that I might buy a little share of. That's all for now. I hope that this gave you a bit of insight into the Hyliion, an exciting company, and of course do your own research. That's always important. That's all for now. Remember to subscribe, hit the like button, and take care of yourself and your money out there. Bye for now.